count it a privilege and an honor to be able to bring this story of my life and try to put it in with Bible verses so that we can all learn. I appreciate the opportunity. And I want to start with another body of water. I brought last time about a creek bed. This time I'm going to bring it about a tank. A tank is a large body of water bigger than a pond. I lived in Texas, and I was at a friend's house named Frank, and his backyard backed up to this tank. One sunny and windy day, Frank and I were fishing at the tank, and I wanted to get on that flat bottom boat. Well, he didn't have a motor, he had oars. Frank told me that it would not be wise to get in the boat, and I asked why. Frank explained to me that if I would get in that boat, that I would not be able to get back over to his side of the tank. Well, the wind would blow me around to the other side no matter how hard I paddled. Well, I want to read from Matthew 6, verse 13. That is Matthew 6, verse 13. And it says, "And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen." And I also want to look at 1 Corinthians 8, verse 9. That is 1 Corinthians 8, verse 9. It says, "But take heed, lest by any means this liberty of yours becomes a stumbling block to them that are weak." Okay, read some more of my story. So, I'm pretty stubborn myself, and everybody that knows me knows that. I tell Frank that I was able to control the boat and that the wind could not keep me from getting back over when I was finished. Frank laughed at me and said, "Have fun." So let's read at 1 John 1, verse 8. That is 1 John 1, verse 8. And it says, "If we say that we have no sin, we deceive ourselves, and the truth is not in us." Verse 10 of 1 John 1. And it says, "If we say that we have not sinned, we make him a liar, and his word is not in us." Okay. So as I got on the tank and headed out, it was as if the wind had picked up. I was fighting the wind versus Daniel. I can say I gave a good fight, but yes, the tank won. Let's read in Galatians 6, as Galatians 6, verse 7. It says, "Be not deceived, God is not mocked, for whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap." And in 1 Corinthians 10, verse 12, that is 1 Corinthians 10, verse 12, "Wherefore let him that thinketh he standeth take heed lest he fall." Frank watched as I struggled to get back to his side. As I struggled, Frank was making his way over to the other side to help me get the boat and myself back to the proper side. And when I had started helping him get the boat back over, I realized what he had gone through to get me. I want to read let's look at Luke 15, verse 20. That is Luke 15, verse 20. And it says, "And he arose and came to his father. But when he was yet great a way off, his father saw him and ran and fell on his neck and kissed him." Well, on the way back around the tank, I felt good that Frank was willing to help me, but I felt bad, kind of bad, because I didn't listen to his warning. And I felt as if I had to say something. That was very hard to say. A lot of us have a very hard time to say, "I'm sorry, and you were right." Wow, that was real hard for me. I know it's real hard for a lot of us, but I admitted that I was wrong. Let's look at Proverbs 28, as Proverbs 28, 13 through 14. And it says, He that covereth his sins shall not prosper, but whoso confesseth and forsaketh them shall have mercy. Verse 14. Happy is the man that feareth always, but he that hardeneth his heart shall fall into mischief. Well, we arrived on the other side in sound, but a little muddy. Well, I want to read Galatians 6, verse 2. That's Galatians 6, verse 2. And it says, Bear ye one another's burdens, and so fulfill the law of Christ. Frank didn't have to come over and help me. He could have just watched and laughed at me as I went through the mud and brought the boat back. But he shared my load, which is very nice. So he was a great example of a Christian, and probably didn't know that day I learned 2 hard lessons. Don't be bullheaded, and listen to the wisdom of ones that have been in the same situation. I want to leave y'all, be careful of your own sins. Let's look at Matthew 7. That's 7 verses 3 through 5. And it says, And why beholdest thou the mote that is in thy brother's eye, but considerest not the beam that is in thine own eye? Or how wilt thou say to thy brother, Let me pull out the mote out of thine eye, and behold, the beam is in thine own eye? Thou hypocrite, first cast out the beam out of thine own eye, and then shalt thou see clearly to cast out the mote out of thy brother's eye. And you flee from sin. And this is what I'm going to leave you with. It's going to be in 1 Corinthians 10, verse 13. And it says, There hath no temptation taken you, but such as is common to man. But God is faithful, who will not suffer you to be tempted above that ye are able, but will with the temptation also make a way of what? Escape, that ye may be able to bear it. Like I said at the beginning, I hope this story was able to help you in your life. And if you do have problems, if you have sinned, come forward. And if you have not become baptized, you don't know what you're missing. If we can help you in any way, please come forward as we stand and sing.